Okay.
Started this the kind of donation meditation kind of thing that you have explained once.
Mm-hmm.
So just feel that the organs are donated, and then so that was very relaxing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any questions otherwise. I mean, just I'm trying to follow the tips and then trying to get into the practice.
Okay. Good. Nice. So then I was stuck up with 9. I didn't do it that deliberately. Ninth verse yesterday. So we can do till 9:30, and then we'll end. So then we can meet up again tomorrow. Okay. So the ninth verse is very nice one. That is what explains about consciousness completely. So he says that one need to center the life energy on consciousness. So the first thing we need to really contemplate after this session is that who is actually feeling everything, seeing everything, tasting everything, and all that. It's the consciousness which is making that possible. Mind is enjoying all of this, but the primary thing which is making that possible is the consciousness. So now if we are not able to see the consciousness for whatever reason, that means that experience will never happen, because 10th chapter is only on consciousness basically, and that is Krishna saying that I am Brahman, and from that perspective he's talking. So he's going to talk about all the extraordinary things what a consciousness can do, and he will also say that what is he in each being and in each animal and plant and mountain and all that. So it's a nice way to say how consciousness gets established. And also he talks about the mind itself is having consciousness, which is the chitta. So basically the lifeline is one consciousness and the mind is another consciousness. Okay. The mind will remain as long as the karma makes it available. As soon as the karma ends, the remaining vasanas are going to get exhausted in the new setup. So the lifeline consciousness moves along with the individual consciousness of the mind, which can be called as roughly as Atma. So that clarity we need to have. So if we go to the 9th verse, it says, Machitta Madgata Pranaha Bodhayantaha Parasparam Katayantaha cha Mam Nityam Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha. So Mat Chitta. Chitta is roughly treated as mind, but it is not really mind. It is the individual consciousness which keeps on appearing and disappearing moment by moment. And that has to be in dhyana. So it should get absorbed in one single thing. That is, yesterday we were talking about particle and wave. So it should become like particle instead of wave. Then Madgataha Pranaha. That is when the chitta is not in meditation on one single, when they are engaged in their other duties, they have to offer to the consciousness, the lifeline consciousness, which is there in everyone. And if that happens, then bodhayantaha, that is the lifeline consciousness, is understood by the chitta. So they then enlighten each other. That means the whole day, evening, night is spent in the presence of that consciousness. Generally, the person, like Lata was explaining in the morning, is that in the meetings or when we are doing something on office, we forget to be aware. This awareness is the universal consciousness, which is lifeline consciousness. Whereas the chitta is the individual consciousness. So basically, we have to make the chitta see the universal consciousness, or make the universal consciousness as something which is overseeing everything, just like a room and a light, and there are many items over there. The light is not bothered about what all is there in the room, it just lights up. Similarly, consciousness throws light on every object. So if I am able to stay in that state, then I have done what I am supposed to do, because the individual consciousness will not be able to do anything wrong. It will align with the universal consciousness. Katayantaha is the next one. So they don't talk stories about worldly affair, they only talk about the affair of the Lord or the consciousness. Meaning, this universal consciousness is available everywhere. Now, this lifeline consciousness is split into three parts today. One as myself who is speaking, and one is Sri Hari, and another one is Lata, and are those people who have joined online, those many people. So this lifeline consciousness is split up into these many different bodies and mind. The body is developed by the chitta, which is the mind, or rather, there is no English term for that at all, and better to keep it as chitta. So, this individual consciousness, chitta, on which everything gets produced, is the manas. So, the manas is the screen on which the projection happens. And because of that projection, the body gets developed. Moment by moment, the body is changing because the chittas are also changing moment by moment. That doesn't mean that if we freeze the chitta, like in the yoga chitta vritti nirodha, it means that the body is not going to decay. It is going to decay because it is conditioned by the lifeline consciousness also. But there is no feeling like the mind where to feel. And there is no perception like the mind where to perceive. Both are not being there. And if the both are not being there, then the mind merges with the consciousness. And now it looks everything from consciousness, so it is always in bliss. It doesn't attach itself to itself. Okay. So the stories are not made. Presently, all of us are interested in creating stories. They say that we can create a family story, we can create a career story, or we can create a political story, and Corona story, like that we can come up with many stories, and those stories are the ones which irritate the mind. And without stories, we cannot live. Basically, it will be boring without any story. So the moment there are no stories, and there's only story of the universal consciousness, what all it can do, then the person doesn't get attached to any of the mental created stories at all. If that happens, tushyanti ramanti cha. So they are satisfied and delighted in whatever they are doing, because they are offering everything they are doing to that consciousness. They are not doing anything for themselves. Themselves is the chitta, individual consciousness. Universal, offering to the universal means that the chitta is surrendered to that universal consciousness called Brahman. So chitta is now enjoying what the Brahman is, and that is peace. So they take delight and satisfaction in being in Brahman rather than being an individual. That is the meaning of this ninth verse, which is very important in this 10th chapter. So the person is centered, not taking views at all, this view or that view. Any questions, or shall I continue? This is the most important verse of this chapter.
So the lifeline consciousness, whatever you tell like that, that is the one is also lighting up the chittas, right? There's no other consciousness.
No, there is no other consciousness, but then this has an independent entity on its own, the chitta, because it is having karma. Whereas this
chittas are the one which create all these situations and emotions and thoughts in the mind.
Right.
So, okay, and this lifeline consciousness, wherever it falls, whichever chitta it falls, that is one which gets lighted up, right?
Yes. But the chittas have the ability to light up themselves. That you should not forget.
How do they light up themselves?
Themselves means they are independent of what is coming. That means the universal consciousness has got nothing to do with what is coming. This is the where the moon and the reflected moon is. If you miss that, then you are in confusion. The moon is the lifeline consciousness of everything. It doesn't.
Okay.
And the chitta is a reflected consciousness.
Yeah. So I understood. Yes.
That if you miss, you are back in confusion.
No. I understood. So I was thinking that is the lifeline consciousness is what is reflecting in the chitta.
Yes, that is correct. That is what is reflecting in the chitta. But if the chittas go away, that the chitta keeps on appearing and disappearing, but that doesn't change the moon, right?
Yeah, that doesn't change the moon. That's true.
Yes. And in that case, the reflected consciousness behaves like a real consciousness, correct?
Real consciousness. That's true. And that's all our problem. That's what our problem is all.
Yes, and that is the reason you have got a body.
Yes.
And this body is diseased body or a healthy body based upon the karma. And karma have been formed because of the vasana. So we created an epic called as the vasana. Then we created different features called as chitta, or rather reflected consciousness. So each becomes a feature. And for completing of the feature, we have stories which are samskaras. So vasana, chitta, vasana, then karma and samskara, because that chitta is there because of the karma. Otherwise, there was no need to have the chitta. reflected consciousness came into existence because of the karma. So karmas become the features, and the samskaras becomes the story. So now we are in sprint of 100 years or 80 years or whatever number of years. So we keep on delivering something at the end of the sprint. If we deliver good, don't deliver, then there is expectation and correction and all that thing is happening. That's all what we are doing. But that has got nothing to do with the universal consciousness. So now we are supposed to look from that lifeline consciousness, not from the chitta. So can you do that? Is the question.
That's the awareness meditation.
That is the awareness meditation. Without which you cannot really understand what this 10th chapter is all about. Okay. Any comment, Sri Hari?
No, Vilas.
Okay. So then the 10th one is Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayanti Te. So once I am standing in the as consciousness. So now this is what I do. Let's see whether you can do it along with me. Can you make yourself, where you are sitting, as fixed and breath as moving? Can you do that? Meaning you should be able to see breath moving up and down, not you moving up and down, the breath moving up and down. And you're just watching it. And if you're able to correctly do it, you will immediately find bliss. Do you want to try? And I'm also asking the online people.
Yeah, we can try.
Yeah, you try.
I'm already trying.
You tried?
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so what is the feeling?
I don't feel like the Stula Sarira exists. I mean, I feel like there is no sense. It's very light. Maybe that is, if I do more, maybe I'll feel the bliss.
Yeah, so I've been doing this on and off in a different ways, not with the breath. So you can immediately feel that bliss in the heart.
Correct. And you feel very light in the body.
Yes.
Okay.
Body is existing only in the places which touches something. So otherwise you don't feel that body is there. So that's the other way of doing this meditation, right? So
Yes.
you just observe the places where it is touching. And then you feel the softness or hardness or heat or cold. And then you are not there. Your body is not there. Then immediately it goes into bliss. And that, even though I'm not doing consciously the awareness, I can still feel that bliss in my heart.
Right. So can you stay in that state forever?
Yeah, so that is the possibility exists because I did that in June for 4 days continuously. And that possibility exists.
Yes, that possibility exists with everyone. This is the
That possibly exists with everyone, and I have experienced it.
yes.
So the problem is when you are in the bliss, you will not feel like doing anything.
Yeah, because that is the nature of the lifeline consciousness.
So you will have to force yourself to do, because I have to cook, I have to do this lot of household chores. That those 4 days I took leave to do this actually. But still, I am away from the work. But then there are other things to be done. So, but then I have to drag myself to do all that.
No. Then there is something wrong. Now, if you are in that state, you can continue doing everything.
Yeah. So you can do it. It is not that I am not able to do it.
No, that
You can still do it, and you can still be the bliss when you are doing that also.
correct. So then there is no pain.
And there is no pain. But what I am trying to say is, it's okay. You feel like okay, simply sitting with that bliss. That's what I mean.
Yes, you will initially feel like that, but then that is not possible. So then when you're walking, you can do the same thing. You are not walking, the body is going through chitta.
Yeah, actually, I started. I got the hang of this awareness meditation while walking only. So that is how I got this, and then you can get it with anything. Initially, I got it with walking only. So walking was not a problem. So I was just walking around. I was not sitting in one place actually. Those times. So what you say is, if you continuously do it, then you will not have that, what do you say, feeling of not wanting to do anything, but you can still do it.
You will be doing it with much interest.
Okay, I have not tried that. So since those 4 days I was in that state, and I have not tried it in that continuously.
Yes, so what you can do is that, let us say you were to attend a meeting, right? And after this call, there is a meeting. Even I have a meeting at 10, you are also having at 10, let us say. Can you just observe everything as movement? And if you do that perfectly, you will really enjoy the meeting. Everything is moving except you.
Okay.
And you can see that nobody is moving except for sound, except for at present only sound can be heard. That's all. Everything else.
Yeah, that's correct, Vilas. But then when we try to get into that mode, the senses also turns to get away. I tried that once you told us, last time, last month. It happens that the mind doesn't also care to listen whatever is there in the meeting or any other thing.
No, that's
so it wants.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what I want to tell is, once we are in this state, the listening interest is also lost, actually. Not only the seeing part, and then how to get over that one.
Then there is something wrong. In fact, you are going to listen more attentively than earlier. Actually,
that is true. You will become more aware of even the things that you are not aware of earlier.
Yes. Then there is something wrong. You will become more aware. You will see more clearly. You will touch more clearly. All that will happen if we were to be in that.
Yeah, at least for me, it is like once I come out of that state, then I feel that state of presence, to be more aware, to feel more in a more perceptive way or something. But once I'm in that state, I think maybe I'm doing something wrong then.
Yeah, that's what I feel. Maybe we can connect back separately on this. But
sure.
But actually, what should happen? I'll tell you. If I were to attend the next meeting, which starts at 10 o'clock, I should be able to listen and contribute literally as a third person.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when I'm interacting with my wife, I should feel like a third person. If I'm interacting with my son, I'm a third person, like that. If I'm feeling like a first person or the second person, then there is something wrong. That means I have got disconnected from that lifeline consciousness. It is the chitta which is there, nothing else. This is what we need to see. That gives you a extreme bliss because there is no expectation. There is nothing to achieve. You already achieved. So there is no need to achieve anything. So you will just be. You will be in asi. Tat tvam asi. You are tvam. So you've understood now what you are. Tat is that chitta which is powered by the universal consciousness. Asi is the universal consciousness. So you are now in asi. So there is nothing. It's really a no death state. So the first practice is like I am talking, I should be able to watch the talk and able to watch the stomach going up and down, watch the arms, hands, legs, everything being there, which normally we don't watch. If I bring a third party perspective of watching, I'm watching the whole thing. So can you do that? Is the question. If you can, then you are learning how to do it in a right way. This is the practice. And you will immediately get the bliss.
Yeah, it is instantaneous.
Yeah, so
this is the only meditation which you get instantaneous bliss.
Yes, and this is what Buddha also was talking. This is what Shankara also talks about. So this not able to sustain this is because of the moral values not being there. So if
yeah. So that is where I had come, and I don't know. Simply I got diverted from there also because I understood that that's where I need to work on.
Yes.
And then I again dropped it. And like that, this one himsa.
Yes.
Himsa and ahimsa you were talking about.
Yes.
So that is more of. I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm practicing it. It has become kind of second nature to me most of the times. And that's why I feel I'm not doing. But I am still doing it. Yes.
Yeah. So now when I see from a universal consciousness point of view, and I see an individual consciousness point of view, Chitta versus Brahman, the Chitta is the one which will have good, bad, and neutral. Whereas universal consciousness doesn't have good, bad, and neutral. It has only ability to shine on everything. And it is uncontaminated. So what I need to do is I need to become that universal consciousness in the mind. So that's the reason Shankara says Aham Brahmasmi. So you look from that perspective. Okay. And now you can correct. Because in Brahman, there is no expectation. Without expectation, there can't be any mistakes at all. Only when there is expectation comes comparison, compulsion, competition, compromise, and various other things. And comes the tall and short and long and tall and short and lean and fat and all dualities comes because of chitta. Now, if you see from universal consciousness, there is neither anybody smart or dumb. It is the way it is. And the buddhi, which has been given to somebody who is most intelligent and somebody who is not that intelligent, is because of karma, not because of the person. And when he was in the womb, he never knew that it is going to be an intelligent person or a dumb person. A consciousness shined on both, or is shining now on both. So from the universal perspective, there is no dualities. But from individual perspective, there is duality. Individual as in the case of the chitta. So Patanjali approached this problem by making Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha through Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. And Shankaracharya approached this problem through the sadhana chatustaya, which has to be established, and then you are ready for it. Buddha approached it by removing the 10 immoral deeds and understanding about the dependent origination. So, through that, he looked at how this can be met. This universal consciousness can be understood. So, there are today, if you see, three philosophies with some overlap and again a very particular way of doing in all the three. So one can choose either one of them and go detailed into it and achieve it. So these are the three things. So one you have yoga, when you have in two in jnana, one in yoga, and a yoga marga would be Patanjali, and then you have jnana marga, you can come to Buddha or Shankara. So these are the three things what you can find to use, tools that can be used for understanding consciousness. So basically we need to set the moral standard, because the universal consciousness is fully moral, it is unbiased, and whenever I am biased, morality is gone, because I am doing himsa through the eyes or ears or nose or tongue or touch, that is skin and thoughts. 6. I am doing himsa. So if I am able to drop the senses, not making them any attachment to the senses and sense objects, the mind is purified. That is, the reflection from the senses will be pure, and because of that purity, the chittas which appear are also pure. They no longer are contaminated ones, and then it can see the universal consciousness, so it surrenders. Simple. So this is the step to do. If I am not able to sit like this all the time in all the working, is because that my morality is not perfected. There is a problem in either one of them. It can be in ahimsa, it can be in satya, it can be in asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, shaucha, santosha, swadhyaya, tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara, pranidhana. If I were to go by the Patanjali, and if I go by the Shankara, I need to see whether the Viveka has a problem or a Vairagya has a problem, or Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana, Mumukchatva. These are the 9. Out of that, one of them would be having a problem. So we need to identify the one which is having a problem. Not all will be having a problem, one of them will be having a problem. So that one has to be corrected, and the remaining will correct. So what I found out was, if we are able to correct ahimsa in thoughts, deed and action, yeah, everything else will fall in place. Then what happens? So he says that he becomes me. That's what the 10th verse says. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So he becomes what I am. So then he gives an example in 11th verse. Lamp, he'll show it as a lamp. He says, Tesham eva anukampartham aham ajnanam ajnanajam tamaha nashyami atma bhavastaha jnanadipena Bhasava. So, actually, this universal consciousness has a very nice function. It is completely compassionate without any residue. It's very compassionate. It keeps on observing the chitta arising and passing away. And it wants this chitta to stop so that it can merge with itself. But the chitta is one funny thing. It doesn't want to stop. It wants to establish its own identity. But whoever does that, aham ajnanajam tamaha, that is, their ignorance that I exist, if that person is able to let go of I am existing separated out of universal consciousness, then I will remove his ignorance. That's what the universal consciousness or the lifeline consciousness will do. Nashyami atma bhavastaha, and it will destroy this individual feeling and then dwells in their heart jnanadipena vasavaha, by the luminous lamp of the knowledge. So wisdom will come. The wisdom is, as I'm watching the breath, I am fixed, the breath is moving. That is the Jnana Deepa. Because of me, everything is moving. If I don't exist, nothing moves. It stops wherever it is. I as in the Supreme Consciousness, not as an individual consciousness. The individual consciousness is there because of karma. So now I am beyond karma. Now you can see it. So what is trying to say is that in a lamp you have a lampshade, and that lampshade is how you withdraw, untainted by likes and dislikes. So you should come out of raga and dvesha, basically. The lamp, like I think Sri Hari was saying that he is able to see the subtle, so feel the subtle. So that is the antakarana. The wick is the intellect, and the more the brahmacharya, the better. It's pure. Wick is pure. Otherwise, it will have a distortion in the lamp. And the oil is the devotion towards that consciousness. And the air is the intensity of the meditation with which it is done. And the light or the flame is the state of realization that aham brahmasmi. So this is what we need to experience. So this is the example of what is there in 11th verse. This is what Krishna says. So you have to create that lamp of knowledge. Any questions?
In order for all this bliss to be experienced and all this to happen, the grace is also required, right? So
Grace is always there, Lata. The problem is the grace is always there. That's what I'm telling you, right? So the universal consciousness has one special character. It is always compassionate. It's always grace. The individual consciousness is disgraceful. That's the problem. The moon is always filled with grace.
Yeah, so only thing is you have to open yourself.
It's not that the universal consciousness now will try to say that, okay, here is my grace. Because of the Lord's or the God's grace, only you are surviving, not because of anything else.
Yep.
But we make the God outside. That's the problem. God always stands outside. So example is that some puja has to be done, or in the case of Islam, then the person has to do namaz for 5 times in a day. Then the case of the Christians, they have to go to the church on Sunday. So like that, each religion, they have their faith or belief turned into whatever they say should be done. And the universal consciousness just watches everything. And it has grace, allowing them to do what they want to do. And being compassionate to whatever is happening. Only when the person turns back, he's actually turned back to consciousness. Now he turns back to the chitta. Then he realizes this grace has been there all the time. Otherwise, all animals, all plants, rocks, to nature, to everything has the grace. That's the reason it is able to sustain. Meaning, let's say there is a mountain. This joining is happening because of the grace, not because of anything else. So when that time ends for the joining to be there, the mountain will get destroyed within minutes. There is no more mountain. So like in the case of landslide, you can see landslide happens because the soil is weaker. What do you mean by that? It means that that holding which was there is no longer able to hold. So it falls. So there's no mountain. Similarly, every life form. So that one doesn't have a individual consciousness called chitta. So the mountain doesn't have a chitta. So it cannot move or do anything. Whereas in the case of human and animals, there's a chitta. So there's an individuality. Whereas in the case of plants, it's only the consciousness, there is only feeling. There is no, there is only recognition. There is no perception and feeling. It's able to recognize the touch. So if you are having good hearted, the plants also will grow very nicely, which you can see. Now we come to the next one. So now Arjuna starts. Aveshu, in what kind of aspects or forms Chintayaha asi Bhagavan Maya are you to be thought of by me? How should I really meditate? So he asked 2 questions. What form shall I use during my meditation, by which I shall come to know of you for certain? Second question is, in what form of yours can I think about you when I am not in meditation but in full transaction with the world? This is the question what everybody would be having, and we can take it up tomorrow because it's a huge one when we start. Have any questions? Otherwise we can end.
Okay, so there are 2 questions. One is which form we should meditate on.
Correct.
when we are doing meditation and what form we should think when we are engaged in those worldly affairs.
Yes. What should I be doing in meditation when I'm not in meditation, when I'm not sitting and doing that? In what form I should be contemplating? But when I'm doing a full transaction world. So now next meeting I'm going to be joining. So how should I transact? I've already answered that, but then you can hear the answer from Krishna tomorrow.
Okay.
But what we need to do is you need to look from consciousness and do it.
Yep.
That's the answer.
Yeah, correct.
So let's see how to do that. But this bliss situation, what you got into, you can really enjoy it all the time. And that's all what it is. There's nothing too much complicated about it. That's all we need to do. And if you're able to do it all the time, in all the situation, then you're in Brahman. That's all. If not, you are back in Chitta. Okay. Okay, so we'll try and we'll take up the next thing tomorrow.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
Thank you then. Yeah, bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.